and gentlemen, tonight we bring to you our analysis from this past weekend's divisional round in the NFL playoffs. We also bring to you the latest breaking news from the National Football League, as during this past weekend's divisional round games, some significant injuries occurred. And tonight, we preview Championship Sunday. As the Final Four is set, we bring to you our score predictions on who we think is going to the Super Bowl. Who will advance to Super Bowl 57 in Arizona? It's showtime.
Turn me up. Turn me up. Turn me up. Turn me up.
From the gridiron to the court, talking all that is sport, breaking down the latest news, scores, and more. Welcome to our Nation Sports Show.
All right. Damn. All right, here we go. I didn't hear the intro on my end, but what the hell? I'm deaf. We're here. We're live, man. It's live once again. It's our Nation Sports Show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hey, Steven, did you hear the intro on your end, by the way?
Yes, I did.
That was weird. I did not hear it on my end. That was weird. I did not hear it, even though my volume is all the way up. So. But it's that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That might have been an issue, but it's all right. At least we heard it. The fans heard it. That's all that matters. So we're live. We're here. It's the dynamic duo. It's our own Fat and Furious, if you want to pull it that way. I truly am fat, and you truly are furious. Especially when it comes to certain teams. But that'll probably be next season. But we're here, we're live. Thank you guys for joining us. It is our traditional Tuesday, as you know. We got, of course, a lot of sports to talk about. We got the playoffs set. The divisional rounds are over. Conference championships are set. We're going to talk about last week's games, and we're going to talk about, of course, this week's games, the conference championships. We're going to preview those and give our predictions, as we always do. And it's just us two tonight. Unfortunately, Kevin and Joey had personal things to take care of and could not be here at the last second, but we do have a video from Joey which will play during the show here once we get to that time. But of course, let's go with the ways you can follow us, and that is, of course, on social media. Twitter is ON_sports show, Facebook.com/Our Nation Sports Show, and of course, Instagram.com/Our Nation Sports Show. Follow us at Nation's Corner as well, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific every Saturday, with Deb Housen, Front Row, Tony Justice, and Mongrovian Mike as they go over the latest happenings in pro wrestling. And of course, they bring in special guests from time to time as well. Follow all of them as well. Don't forget to follow Too Sweet Cosplay across all socials at Too Sweet Cosplay. Some big news coming up hopefully within the next week or so. So keep an eye out on our social medias for more information. Of course, with this usual go spiel through all the people, like I said, it's just down. It's the two of us, and we will make it if we try. So here we are. It's
just the two of us.
And of course, the other man by my side here is, of course, as I always say, matriarch of the show. This would not be possible without him. He is the one, the only Big Stevie Wyand. What's up?
What is going on, everybody? I'm so excited to be on the show with you guys here this week, talking about the crazy insanity weekend for the National Football League and the divisional round of round 2 of the playoffs. And yes, like you said, Ezra, Championship Sunday is set, ready to go on Sunday, and we will be getting to those games right now. Again, it is just the two of us.
That's right, brother. That's right, brother. It is just the
We're
two of us.
gonna make it if we try, just the two of us.
Just the two of us. Oh god. First off, well, before we begin, we got to talk real briefly about, of course, when the show ended last week, the unfortunate news that happened, and that was, of course, the passing of former Ring of Honor World Champion Jay Briscoe. Usually we leave this stuff to the nation's corner, but of course we got to mention it. We're wrestling fans at heart, and we always will be, and that was a sad thing. Jay Briscoe passing away at the age of 38 years old, automobile accident on Tuesday night. Fortunately, his daughters were badly hurt, also in the accident too. Some good news coming this week on their recovery, so that is a great thing to hear. So, whatever you believe in, if you don't, whatever. But it's good to hear some good news coming from that end. Of course, tributes have been pouring in left and right. Every company from NXT to SmackDown to GCW to Impact, New Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah have all paid tribute this past week to Jay Briscoe. Guys at the prime of his career, ready to go. And after all the BS that went down with supposedly went down with Warner Media, it was announced today that Mark Briscoe will officially make his AEW debut this week, tomorrow night at Dynamite against Jay Lethal. A match that both of them wanted to celebrate Jay. So, but it was a sad day, past a sad week, but we send our condolences to the family, friends of Jay, Mark, Papa Briscoe, everybody, and all of his former and current co-workers too.
Man, that match is going to be so emotional between those two guys. I mean, this is going to be, there is not going to be a single dry eye in that building tomorrow night. I mean, Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal are going to go out there and they're going to have a banger of a match, and they're gonna pay tribute to his brother, the late great Jay Briscoe. And again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the Briscoe family and his friends in the wrestling business and his family, of course. And it honestly, it's still very shocking that this still even happened. I mean, 38 years old. I mean, he was just 8 days away from his 39th birthday, and it just happened so suddenly. And again, I mean, like, just I can't even, it's amazing how, just you're doing something simple, carrying you're on the way back from cheer practice with your daughter, and something tragic like that happens. I mean, it's just that old saying is true: life is fragile, and you never know. And that match is going to be something special tomorrow night between Briscoe and Lethal, putting on a hell of a match for his brother Jay, and it's going to be something special.
Absolutely, and can't wait for tomorrow night. Overall, great card, but more or less that's going to be the one everybody's going to be paying attention to, and rightfully so. Like I said, all the best to Jay Briscoe's family, friends, and of course, fellow fans like us as well. All right, let's get right into it, man. We got a lot to talk about. Well, we have a lot to talk about, but it's just the two of us, so we'll probably finish up the show in the next hour. So, as usual, because we get through it pretty quickly. That's what she said. But we got a lot to get into, man, and that's we got to get into the NFL news and real quick before we start the stuff off of the games, and that is one of the biggest news is what happened during the game, and that is the Dallas Cowboys, and that what happened during that was the unfortunate injury to Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard suffered a left fibula fracture that'll require surgery. said normally those require at least 3 months. An unfortunate injury to Tony during that game, who probably would have made a big difference to Dallas if he would have been able to stay in, but unfortunately he had to be carted off the field, and now he's going to be out for 3 months. So we'll get into that game in just a second. But get into the game in just a few minutes. But ongoing other news real quick is the one we talked about in the pre-show, and that is the possible return of Bill O'Brien to the Patriots.
And not just the possibility, but the fact that it has happened today, that Bill O'Brien has rejoined the Patriots as their offensive coordinator. And honestly, even though he's not a great head coach, he is a good coordinator. So I think that him joining Belichick's staff again, it could do some wonders for Mac Jones and the Patriots, because, I mean, Mac Jones during his rookie season was pretty solid, but this past season he hit that sophomore slump. And I think that Bill O'Brien's play calling, along with Belichick's schemes, I think this is a good sign for the Patriots. It's just that now they have to execute it, because coordinators sometimes make the quarterbacks, and accentuate the bright spots and hide the weaknesses, I think Bill O'Brien's he's gonna fill that void that the Patriots lost this past season and their previous offensive coordinator, and I think that he's gonna help Jones out.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Bill O'Brien's been a part of the system before, so there is familiarity with him and Bill Belichick, which is a great thing when it comes to relationships between offensive coordinators and head coaches. And also, I think Mac Jones will flourish underneath Bill O'Brien, because that also takes the pressure off of Bill Belichick. He don't have to call plays; he can just simply guide the players to those right plays and help them out. Where Bill O'Brien is like, okay, we need this ski. All right, we need to play this play. We need to do drop back. We need to do a whatever this ski. We need to do a slant route. We need to do a deep route. Whatever. He's able to get those calls out and hopefully give Mac Jones some good opportunities, and we'll see what happens. But also, speaking of offensive coordinators, the Washington Commanders have decided to interview Miami Dolphins assistant head coach and running backs coach Eric Stuttsville for their offensive coordinator position. So
that's very interesting.
You talk about that. Talking about getting that going for them. Hopefully it works out for them. Also, the big news was. Also, one of the big news. Oh, yeah, and this other one, injury news. Patrick Mahomes, of course, we'll get into that game with the Chiefs. He unfortunately during that game suffered a high ankle sprain. Luckily, he said nothing more than that. And he is scheduled to play in the AFC Championship game. So there's no damage aside from the high ankle sprain, which is a significant enough injury on its own.
Absolutely. I mean, because that injury during that game against Jacksonville, and again, we'll get to it. That right there, when that injury happened, like Chiefs Kingdom in the entire sports landscape held their breath in collective silence, just going, "What just happened here?" Like, here is the pretty much. I mean, we can all pretty much. It's pretty much a guarantee that Mahomes is going to walk away as the 2022 NFL MVP for the second time in his career, and. I mean, the fact that he had the guts to come back during this game, especially even up after getting the injury, he was hopping on one foot. And you're like, okay, you need to be careful, because if you get hit any wrong way, that injury is going to get even worse. And I got to give that guy a lot of credit, because he had the tenacity and the willpower to say, hey, you guys need me. I know that I cannot let you down, and just the braveness of that kid, to want to play during an injury like that. That just shows you how much the game of football means to him and how important that game was, because that game decides who goes to the championship game.
Yeah, definitely. Patrick Mahomes is definitely a leader for the Chiefs. It's evident in that game. Despite the injury, he's wanting to go out there, continue to try and make plays and get drives, and hopefully push them to the next round. And that's exactly what he did. And we'll get to that game pretty much in just a second. Also, one of the shocking things that happened is, well, we get into that another thing we'll discuss that game. But good news coming from the NFL, and that is Peyton Hills has been discharged from the hospital. So he is now at home after that swimming accident that nearly took his life. So good news on that, and that Peyton Hills gets to go home. So
Absolutely, that's a scary situation. Diving in to save your son, from drowning and almost drowning yourself. And just thank God he's on the road to recovery.
Yeah, because we unfortunately saw that with Chad Gaspard, and unfortunately that did not turn out the way this turned out, unfortunately. But we're glad to hear that he's doing better and he's home now, and that's all good. Other updates kind of in the world on that front is that, let's see, that right here, that the Ravens have requested permission to speak with Seahawks quarterbacks coach Dave Canales for their offensive coordinator job. He's the one who worked closely with Geno Smith this year to get him ready. Also real quick, the Vikings have requested to interview Saints co-defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen for Minnesota's vacant defensive coordinator job. And Nielsen is also expected to interview with the Falcons for that very same role as well.
Interesting. Because if there's one thing that the Seahawks did do this year is A, made the playoffs, and B, the career of Geno Smith has been resurrected from the dead. And he had his best season of his pro career. And it would be interesting to see if he would go to Baltimore, because they could honestly use, a resurgence in their quarterback department, because what's the future of Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson, since week 13, after he went down with the injury with the knee, he did not play a single snap the rest of the season. And Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown were rotating back in and out of the lineup. Harbaugh was trying to find, who could he go to. And I really think that if you bring in Seattle's quarterbacks coach into Baltimore, that could be a good thing, but Seattle needs somebody to replace him, because you got to have a good quarterbacks coach to keep the quarterback in check. Like, hey, do this, do that. If this combination route's not working, run this route. And all that. And I think that Geno Smith's confidence has been risen to an even higher level now at this point. And I think going forward, I think he could be a pretty big, significant piece to that offense success. But I really think Lamar Jackson needs some kind of guidance like that as well, because, he hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs, and he's had good seasons, but he can't get over that hump. And I think if Lamar can have the coaching around him with the coordinators and the quarterbacks coaches and also, just to help him out with that, I think that Jackson could possibly stay, but Lamar, has a gripe, with them. Hey, you need to pay me, because I am your franchise quarterback. And Tyler Huntley did have a good game against the Bengals last week, but it just wasn't enough. And you people, especially Ravens fans, know that if Lamar was playing in this game, maybe the Ravens would have won that game. Who knows at this point? But that's coulda, woulda, shoulda at this point.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes down to Geno Smith's been kind of a success story in the sense that he was with the New York Jets. He was floundering around in that water and just could not get himself going. But then when he left and decided to back up originally for Russell, he stayed with the team, and then Russell left to go to Denver, and it was Geno Smith's time. Geno took over, and when he did, he gained confidence. He showcased that he is a great quarterback and that he can go out there and make plays happen, and that he's not just a backup to a former Super Bowl champion.
Exactly. And also Smith learned the playbook while Wilson was still the starting quarterback. So that also comes into effect because that's why you have to have great starting quarterbacks and great quarterbacks who can back up the starter. That way, just in case if you go down with an injury, that way you know the playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on to Lamar Jackson. I know that the front office has said that they're confident that they will re-sign him, but Lamar wants big-time money. That's the problem, is they got to balance that money out. And the issue I have is, will they pay Lamar Jackson that much money, a huge contract, when A, he's been out with an injury the last chunk of the season, and B, when he hasn't really produced to what he should be.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, where he's kind of been lackadaisical in the playoffs. And when it comes down to it, I don't know if I would pay him that much money. But the question is, with Lamar, they're saying they're confident they want him to finish his career as a Raven. But the question is, if Lamar doesn't get that kind of money and he decides to walk, who would sign him?
Right, because the quarterback market is not, there's not a lot of teams anymore looking for quarterbacks, because pretty much can't even believe I'm fixing to say this, but predominantly all of the franchises across the National Football League have their quarterbacks. I mean, Jacksonville has their quarterback. The Chargers had their quarterback. The Rams could possibly, if Stafford's healthy, they had their quarterback, but he wasn't even healthy this past season. I mean, the Panthers could possibly use a quarterback. The Saints have quarterbacks, but they're not that consistent, and I mean, that's an excellent question on who would possibly take the chance of Lamar Jackson, because the thing about Lamar Jackson is he a great athlete? Absolutely. Is he a great player? Absolutely. But he doesn't have the tools, and he doesn't have the consistent tools to get it done, because he hasn't gotten it done in a big spot. He has failed in a big spot. In order to succeed in a big spot, you have to fail in order to win one. And I believe in that philosophy. And I think that Lamar's services are going to be used significantly, but it would not surprise me if we're talking about on this show at some point down the line later on in the offseason, if Lamar Jackson is somehow A, let go, and B, traded or he is signed to a new football team. I mean, it could well happen.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure, without a shadow of a doubt on that. But let's get into it, man. Let's get into these games real quick.
And real quick, also, too, I do want to talk about the news that came down today. There's a little wrinkle in Green Bay, and it's pretty ironic. It's very, it's pretty fitting that Brett Favre threw his last pass as a Green Bay Packer at Lambeau, intercepted against the Giants. That was his last pass in Green Bay, was an interception. Later the next season, he plays with the Jets in 2008. Aaron Rodgers' last pass in Lambeau was against his rivals, the Detroit Lions. This could possibly be Rodgers' last played game in January against Detroit from this past season. And there are rumors floating around that possibly the Packers could be dealing Rodgers to the Jets. However, what the Packers want in this deal is 2 first-round picks. And reportedly, Rodgers, there's a lot of reports going around. I don't know, man. I mean,
to me, at his advanced stage, and the fact that I'm not gonna say reliable, because he has been. He's been there every step of the way. But I just feel like that when it comes down to it, when you're thinking about it, I just don't feel that Aaron Rodgers is going to be around too much longer.
No, and
I can't trust him to 2 first-round picks. That's a little bit much. I understand you're going with a Super Bowl champion, one of the great quarterbacks of our generation, understandably so.
But he has to learn a brand new playbook.
He has to learn a brand new playbook, and Who knows? By that time, he may end up calling it quits.
See, because here's my thing too as well. Okay, so if you are traded to a team, even in the middle of the offseason, like even when training camp is underway, you still have a few more weeks to go until the regular season starts. And you have to learn the ins and the outs of your brand new playbook. And Rodgers is talented. But this past season, Rodgers, like Tom Brady, disintegrated. His playing went down. And it went down because I think he's lost a step. He's lost kind of a step. He's lost that accuracy that he used to have. But more importantly, during the first 7, 8, 9 weeks, he had no chemistry with his receivers. And no offense, the Jets don't have that many great receivers. They do have some decent receivers, but they don't have that true number one. I mean, now Garrett Wilson had a pretty good rookie year season last year. If he's talented, they do have some talent on that team. Their running game is solid. Their defense is solid. They have some talent. But the problem is you're going to have to, you go to a new team and you're going to have to get used to the new team, your new surroundings, and more importantly, again, the new playbook. It's just so fitting that there's rumors floating around that Aaron Rodgers could be going away from the Packers, being traded to the Jets, the same team that Brett Favre went to after the 2007 NFL regular season.
Yeah, it's very, very fitting. We'll see what happens. I just feel like 2 first-round picks is a little bit much for Aaron
It's
Rodgers.
a little too much. I mean, even 3 is too much, but 2 is still a little too much.
Yeah. But I do agree with that. But we got games to get to, so let's roll on them.
Yes, we do.
Here we go. All right, the first game of the week was, of course, the Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, we mentioned about Patrick Mahomes suffering that injury during that game. And Jacksonville hung on. They hung on till the very end. Got to give Trevor Lawrence and company a lot of credit for getting through this one. You're facing a former Super Bowl champion, one of the greatest quarterbacks of our generation, and possibly one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the entire NFL. So,
Trevor Lawrence, the kid has nothing to be ashamed of, and neither does his defense, and neither does that offense, and neither does Doug Peterson, because Doug Peterson stepped into this team this season when they were several games under 500. They were 3-7, and you rattle off that many victories in a row to not only win multiple games, but you went from dead last in the AFC South, basically behind the Colts. The Colts were dead last. You were next to dead last, and you came all the way back to win the division against Tennessee, and you won a playoff game against the Chargers 2 weeks ago. And then you took the heavyweight contenders in the AFC conference, the Chiefs, literally to the last play. And I have to give Jacksonville a lot of credit. They played a pretty great game. Trevor Lawrence, up until the interception in the end of the fourth quarter, he had a very good game. And I'm sorry, Chris Collinsworth, but that pass that he threw to Christian Kirk, that was not overthrown. That was a drop pass. If he catches that pass, it's a first down, and it could possibly be a touchdown. When are we going to give these young quarterbacks, and when are we going to give these young quarterbacks that aren't the quote unquote superstars of the Joe Burrows or no, I'm sorry, the Patrick Mahomeses, the Josh Allens of the world? Burrow's still on the cusp in the media's eyes. He's right up there, in many people's eyes in the media. But we'll get to that game in a little while. But the fact that Mahomes in this game went down again with that injury, and Jacksonville smelt blood, because at that point the game was still tied. It was still 7-7. And Mahomes on that first drive, he was doing typical Mahomes, things. He was running out of the pocket on the run, making these crazy throws. He even made a jump pass. Who the hell does that? Patrick Mahomes is something special. He is an MVP in the regular season. He's fixing to get his second MVP in the regular season. He's already won a Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl MVP. The guy is just magical. And on that first drive, he was doing typical Mahomes things. And when he went down with the ankle injury on their next drive, that was a very significant injury because it changed the complexity of that first half, because after the injury happened, Mahomes was hopping around on 1 foot, one leg. And I was texting Joey and Kevin going, how in the hell is he still in this game? Like, it was crazy. And to have the balls that kid does, to know that this is a very important game. This isn't us versus the Atlanta Falcons. This isn't us versus the New Orleans Saints. This is a win or go home mentality of a game. This is when you're in and into the next round, and if you lose, you're eliminated, you're gone. And to have again the balls to know, and the tenacity to stare into that injury, going, okay, I know I'm hurt, but if I feel, and he said after the game, if I didn't feel like I could put weight on it, if I didn't feel like I could, maneuver, I want to go back into the game. And also after they kicked that field goal to make it 10-7, the Jags drove down the field and they had the punt. And then the most critical drive of this game was their next drive. The Jaguars punted, and that I believe that was the drive. I believe it was. I think that was the drive that Trevor Lawrence had the drop pass to Christian Kirk on the 15 of Kansas City. So they punted. It was. Okay, thanks. Thank you on that. And they punted the ball, and they pinned the Chiefs on their own 2-yard line. And Chad Henning, a 15-year veteran, comes into this game, and Andy Reid does not run the ball on 1st and 10 from the 2. He trusts his backup quarterback, a veteran who has been there since the 2020 season. He trusts Chad Henning to put them in position. And what did he do on that drive? He drove them down the field on a lengthy drive that went over 6.5, 7 minutes off the clock. And he did almost throw a pick on that drive, but that didn't happen. But what did happen is he drove the Chiefs down the field, 5 of 7 for 23 yards and a touchdown. And that may have been the drive that saved their season, because it was a very critical drive at an early part of that game, because those were two things during that game. Listening to that game on Westwood One Sports Radio, I took note of that, because Christian Kirk had that drop on the 15-yard line of Kansas City that would have been a first down. And the next drive, that on their first drive with Henning, he leads them right down the field. And the fact that Andy Reid has the trust in his backup to know if anything like that happens again, he can come to Henning and say, hey, we trust you, and Chad Henning had a hell of a performance in this first half, 5 of 7 for 23 yards, a touchdown, no picks, and just a great performance on his part to keep the Chiefs A on top, and B, to give their fans and their team hope, like, hey, we just put our backup quarterback in and he drove us right down the field and gave us a boost of confidence. And then during that second half, when you look at the significance of that game, because, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. And then after that drive, Mahomes is on the sideline going crazy, like, hey, I want to be in this game, and the training staff, the coaching staff said, look, dude, you got to go to the locker room. And they gave him an ultimatum. And the ultimatum was, if you don't go to the back and get this checked out, you're not playing. And he had to be a team player, and kudos to him. He knew what was on the line, and he knew that he had to be a team player. And again, to have the willpower to want to be out there on the field with your teammates, knowing that this is a very important game. He did go to the locker room, and he said at the end of the game, he did say that the injury or the results of the test came back negative. So that is good. And he did play the second half. He did lead them to a touchdown drive in that second half. And again, Jacksonville hung around, in this game. And Lawrence led them to a touchdown drive that brought it down to 4. And then obviously Harrison Butker kicked the field goal from 50 yards again to put them up by 7. You know, and it was just a very critical situation in this game. You know, and then they get back down the field and potential to score, and then because the Jags were driving down the field and they got down to the Chiefs' 5-yard line, and in the worst possible times you fumble because they had the Chiefs defense on the ropes. I mean, they were not covering at times, and got to give Lawrence a lot of credit. He was taking what the defense was giving him, and he had a pretty well of a game, threw a touchdown pass in this game, it was going to be a great drive, and then they had the fumble, and then obviously Mahomes leads them on a touchdown drive to Marquez Valdez-Scantling to basically put the game away. But then the Jags did come back down the field and scored the touchdown, onside kick. The Chiefs recovered, and the game was over, 27-20.
Yeah, it was a good game for Kansas City, and despite the injury to Patrick, who proved his mettle as not only
Travis Kelce, real quick, Travis Kelce, 14 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, one reception away from breaking a NFL playoff record of receptions.
Nice. But Patrick Mahomes proved his mettle that day on not only being a team player, but also his toughness as a quarterback too.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with a guy who's had several rolled ankles and thrown an entire 53-foot trailer with a messed up ankle, basically on one leg. I know what that's like to continue working despite the injury. I know what it's like. It's never fun, but to him being an athlete and having to run around and scramble and try to backtrack and make plays, dude, Patrick Mahomes is a beast, no doubt.
And during that game, he did have his struggles planting that right foot, to get going with some of those throws, and that's going to be concerning going into this game Sunday.
It is, but as we know, the NFL has some of the best medical professionals, and you have everything from massage therapists to the treatment. You have all different sorts of things that they could do to get that ankle all freshed up and ready to go. He might be, if they have to bring in their backup to come in there and do a couple snaps, so be it. The Patrick Mahomes to rest, but hey, you know what? That's fine.
Exactly.
Yep. Bring them in, get them to a point where they feel comfortable, and then bring in the backup to try to stabilize and make sure that they don't give up any leads. That's what I would do. I mean, it's hard to do that with a guy I know, Patrick, who wants to be out there the whole game and wants to showcase why they could go to the Super Bowl. But it's good. You know what? And all the respect to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jags, we joke about Tony Khan a lot, and whether it's personally or whether it's just in online. But Shad, Tony, the whole team, the quarterbacks, all that, everybody's come together, and Jacksonville's went from the bottom barrel of the NFL to being one of the most talked about success stories this year, outside of another team we're going to get to in our next game. But all the credit to Jacksonville for one hell of a season, bouncing back from a 2-6. I think they were 2-6 to start with, and come back as
2-6. That's right, 2-6.
Yes. 2-6, and comes back and gets themselves in the playoff. It gets themselves into the divisional round. Who would have thought that would ever happen?
They were a few plays away from possibly going to the AFC Championship game. That's what's so crazy is they took this heavyweight contending team in Kansas City to the literal brink. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, definitely. All respect to Jacksonville on that one. That was one hell of a run. Speaking of a hell of a run, and unfortunately the run didn't end the way they wanted to, and that is the New York Football Giants. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's kind of expected, but on a very big scale, 38-7.
38-7. I mean, this is how we thought it was. We honestly thought that the Giants were going to give Philadelphia a run for their money because it was a divisional opponent. But Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and that New York Football Giants team did not show up in a big spot. I mean, they were getting killed on the offensive line, interceptions, sacks, you name it. I mean,
To be fair, Steven, or there was only one interception in that whole game.
Yeah, one interception and just Jones could not get it going.
No.
He could not get it going. They were tackling, getting
Jalen Hurts only had 154 yards himself.
Yeah, and he didn't need to do nothing very much because the defense took care of business. The running game took care of business.
Running game, three rushing touchdowns, one from Jalen Hurts, one from Boston Scott, one from Kenneth Gainwell.
When you look at this game across the board, Philadelphia won in all facets of the game: special teams, defense, and offense. And all three phases showed up when it mattered. And the Giants just couldn't get nothing going. When the Giants had a pretty good run, and I got to give Brian Dable and that Giants organization a lot of credit, for bouncing back, and making it to the playoffs. And Danny Dimes, despite leading them to only one playoff victory, that's still better than the Dallas Cowboys as a franchise overall in the past 27 years. But the Giants, they were the 6th seed. Philadelphia was a 1 seed, and it honestly showed. The Giants could not cover. They could not stop. They couldn't, get after Jalen Hurts. They couldn't get after the receivers, the running backs, and that O-line. They ran everything perfectly in that game, and it was one-sided. And hats off to Philadelphia for getting back to the championship game.
Yeah, it was pretty much as close to a perfect game as you can get for Philly. They had all assets of the game, passing, rushing. Yes, it wasn't a big amount of yards for Jalen Hurts, but with him still recovering a little bit from that
shoulder injury. Yep.
The separated shoulder. It's kind of hard for him. You're not going to – I don't expect him to throw 350 yards, 400 yards like Joe Burrow would. Right now, Joe Burrow's 100% healthy. But they did what was expected. They had a balanced game, rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns, 5 total touchdowns from them. Like I said, they just didn't. Unfortunately, the Giants didn't show up. But what a good season they've had. Like I said, Brian Dable, his team, his staff did a great job getting these guys prepared, getting Daniel Jones prepared.
Saquon Barkley was actually healthy for a season. Congratulations.
Yes, he was healthy, and I'm more than happy that they were healthy. And
they just need to get better receivers, man, because they don't have that many great weapons on the receiving end. They got the running back, they got the quarterback, but they need to sign some receivers and some tight ends in the offseason to really give Jones and Barkley, some more weapons to throw to. They have some talent, but they don't have enough to get to that next level.
Yeah, and I think the NFL draft and free agency is going to be very interesting this year for teams like the Giants, the Jags, teams like that who made it to the playoffs, but are just missing 1, 2, maybe 3 key components to help push them to that next level.
Especially to a team that we're going to be getting to here next in a few minutes.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, the next game on the list right now is actually the Bengals and the Bills.
And that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steven, lead the charge.
When you look at this game, again, the experts on television, on the radio, online, the fans were going, this is Buffalo's year to shine. This is the year that they break all of the curses that they have had from the playoff droughts, of missing the playoffs for 16, 17 consecutive years, the 4 Super Bowls that they went to in the 90s that they lost against, ironically, all of the teams in the NFC East up until that point. But that's beside the point at this juncture, because the Buffalo Bills since 2017 have been building up as far as draft picks and signing players in the offseason. And Josh Allen, was touted as a MVP leading candidate during the first 8 weeks of the regular season. And during the second half of this season, the Buffalo Bills were not the same team, that they were in the first half of the season. And the fact that, the first 9 weeks of the season, the Bills were the same, they were great. And then in the second half, they didn't have it. They had weeks where they were really, really good, and they had weeks that were really, really bad. And they get into the postseason, and now granted, the Damar Hamlin incident from a few weeks ago against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, it was a tragic story that Hamlin went down with the injury, cardiac arrest, and thank God that the doctors and the EMTs saved his life, and he is making a full recovery. And again, the Buffalo Bills fans and the experts were going, the story is complete now. This is Buffalo's destiny. This is their season, with all of the chaos, as far as the ups and the downs, the injuries, the life and death scenario of Damar Hamlin, coming back and being a miracle and showing what great, EMTs and medical personnel can do and saving people's lives, and just being an inspiration to his football team and talking to his teammates and believing in his teammates, giving them a boost of confidence. And this went on for a few more weeks into the postseason. And last week against the Miami Dolphins, Josh Allen and that team got lucky. And we said it on the show last week that they caught a lot of breaks. Allen had 3 turnovers in that game. And we said going into this weekend against the Bengals, you can't have mistakes like that. And on Sunday, before the game, Hamlin spoke to the team and was giving them a speech and a boost of confidence. And they go out onto the field in the snow in Orchard Park. And not only in the first half, not only in the first half, but the first quarter, the Bengals took it to them. They brought the intensity, the passion, the anger. They played a pissed off football game from the get-go, from the opening drive to the second drive, especially in the first drive. Joe Burrow was 6 of 6 and a touchdown. The offensive line was slowly getting their game established in this game with how physical they were going to play. Because honest to God, we said it on the show last week, me and Kevin and Joey were saying, with this backup offensive line, we didn't think that the Bengals were going to protect Burrow and get the running game going quickly as they did. But boy, did they prove us wrong, because that offensive line this past Sunday, as they say in Mortal Kombat, flawless victory, because the Cincinnati Bengals came into Orchard Park on the road in Buffalo, in frigid Buffalo, in the snow, and in that first quarter, they established a tempo that we are not fucking around, and Buffalo was punched in the mouth, and they did not know what hit them. And Joe Burrow, along with Jamar Chase on that opening drive, punched the Bills in the mouth. That 28-yard touchdown pass that Burrow had silenced the Buffalo crowd and stunned the entire football world and the entire sports landscape, because they were like, what just happened here? Because Cincinnati was not messing around. When they came out and just played with this intensity to start out from the opening kickoff, and then Buffalo gets the ball on their opening drive, and from the start, Allen did complete a couple of passes, but 3rd and 4, drops back deep pass to Stephon Diggs, and he overthrew him. It was just off. No, Tony Romo, he missed him. He was 2-3 steps. He had 2 or 3 steps on the defender, and he missed him. He was open. And there's a common theme with this, and I'm pretty sure you're picking up on this. These analysts on television make me sick sometimes, because they kiss these players' asses. They're not going to call them out on their bullshit and going, oh, that throw was overthrown. Some analysts do call the game down the middle. What the hell are you watching, Romo? The fact that you're saying that, oh, this pass was just off. No, it was not just off. It was overthrown by a few yards, and it was very significantly overthrown. And then they punt the ball. And then the Bengals, on their next drive, Burrow completes 3 more passes, along with the running game getting established, and even more. And the offensive line at this point is setting the tempo that we are not messing around. We're going to be physical. We're going to beat your defense. We're going to beat the defensive front off of the line of scrimmage. We're going to get Joe Mixon. We're going to get the running game. We're going to get P. Ryan established, to get the running game going. And we're going to protect our quarterback. And they heard all the bullshit that was going on from the media. Oh, they're not going to be able to protect Joe Burrow. They're not going to be able to get a running game established, and that offensive line, they knew that, okay, nobody believes in us. Zach Taylor knew that. Joe Burrow knew that. The entire Cincinnati team knew that nobody in the media, the experts, the fans from around the world, including us, we all picked Buffalo because we figured Buffalo had a few more significant pieces on that team to get them over the hump. But no, again, in that second drive, the Bengals established that tempo, and Joe Burrow, wide open touchdown to Hurts. Nobody was near him. Nobody covered him. Just like on the Jamar Chase touchdown, nobody covered him. The Bills defense looked lost out on there. And just as the game went on, the Buffalo Bills did not know what hit them. They thought that they could just, snap their fingers. Oh, we're at home. We're heavily favored to win. We have all the momentum on.
Snap your neck.
Yeah, they want the good life will break your back. Anyways, again, this Bills team, the story was there, right? I mean, they made it to the AFC Championship game 3 seasons ago. Last year, they were 13 seconds away from going back to the AFC Championship game. But in this game, this showed me, and this showed all of us watching this game, that you have to play 60 minutes of football. You have to try. You can't, not have your foot on the gas. You can't show up to a game and expect, just because we're the heavily favored team to win, that we can just show up, we can take plays off and show up when we want to. No, that's not how this works. And the Bengals played a pretty perfect game in this game. I mean, Joe Burrow had an excellent game, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and Joe Mixon ran in a touchdown himself. And the Buffalo Bills did not know what hit them. And Josh Allen did not have a Josh Allen game. He did not throw a touchdown. He ran a touchdown, and he did throw an interception. But during this game, Josh Allen was overthrowing receivers. Stephon Diggs only had 4 catches for 35 yards. Let that sink in for a minute. 35 yards on 4 receptions. Gabe Davis did not have a great game. Knox did not have a great game. Devin Singletary, their starting running back, did not get the game going. They didn't have it. They didn't have it in this game. I mean, the Bengals' defensive front played a more physical game. Their offensive line played a more physical game at the line of scrimmage. They beat the Bills in every facet of the football game. And honestly, I think that the Bengals also used another pissed off, what pissed them off even more was the fact that the National Football League was already selling tickets to be determined neutral site AFC Championship game that the Chiefs did win, but if the Bills won, if they did, they would have faced the Chiefs in Atlanta for the AFC title to go to the Super Bowl. And I'm glad that didn't happen because I thought the rule was stupid. I thought it was ridiculous how they even put that in place because the Bengals, in the end, they won. They deserve to go on the road. That the Bills would have won, they should have gone on the road against Kansas City. They all did not play the same amount of games. The Chiefs played 17 games. The Bills and the Bengals only played 16. That is stupid that they considered doing that, and it bit them right in their faces. And Joe Burrow had a great quote at the end of this game. He said, "You better have those refunds ready. I hope you get them." And I'm like, exactly. Because the Bengals went into this game with that, you're not going to pick us. We're not the sexy favorites to go to the championship game. And we're a fluke. Well, I think Zach Taylor and that Bengals organization have already given the biggest FU to the NFL, to the Buffalo Bills, and to the entire sports world that we are here to stay. And they're going to their second consecutive AFC Championship game for the first time in franchise history. Big win by the Bengals, 27-10.
Absolutely. And really, I have nothing else to add to that point. Stevie, you took, as Meatloaf once said, you took the words right out of my mouth. So I really have nothing else to add to it. You pretty much added everything. You added, subtracted, divided, and multiplied, brother. You a mathematician of
This ain't Snyder math, my brothers and sisters.
Well, you still have a 66 2/3% chance of beating this whole thing. Of winning. you still have a 125.3% chance of winning next year's prediction battle.
Yep.
The numbers don't lie, and that spells doom for you, Samoa Joe, at Sacrifice. Anyways, in the final game.
Oh, and also before, real quick too. I mean, like after this game, I mean, Stephon Diggs, and after this game and during this game, Stephon Diggs during the game and after the game was visibly upset, and I understand why, because you don't want to lose, but at the same time, if you want to experience success, you have to fail. You can't be getting bent out of shape. I understand football is your passion, but it's a game. It's a game.
Dude, he left quicker than fucking Antonio Brown left the stadium.
Exactly. And Josh Allen talked about, yesterday that, since week 9, I've been having problems with my shoulder. You don't say, huh? Because clearly your passes on and off since week number 9, or since week 10 against the Jets, or no, it was week 9. Week 9 against the Jets. You absolutely, since that game, have had on and off performances where you've been great and you have absolutely shit the bed. Because during this season, especially during the second half of the season, Josh Allen was suffering from the turnover bug, interceptions, fumbles, and just being very careless with the ball. And I was worried about that, and it reared its ugly head during the second half of this season and in the playoffs. 4 turnovers in the last 2 playoff games for the Buffalo Bills starting quarterback, and that is not what you cannot have. And the Buffalo Bills championship window, it is still there. But just like that, 2 years in a row, or if you want, we could throw 3 years in a row, but I'm not going to count that 2020 championship game against the Chiefs.
No.
21 in this past season, 22. The cracks of that window are already being broken. It's slowly but surely disintegrating before our very eyes. And if the Bills are going to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to get a better running back, because no offense, Devin Singletary, he's a pretty good running back, but he's not a true number 1, threat at running back. Tony Pollard, on the other hand, is a true number 1 running back. And if he is, I don't know if he's a free agent right off, but if Tony Pollard is dealt in the offseason, the Buffalo Bills need a player like him. Because if I'm Pollard, I am taking a pay cut to go to a team like the Buffalo Bills, because that could be one missing building block that the Bills could possibly use, is Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Because Devin Singletary isn't the answer.
Yeah, and Tony Pollard is also a dual threat too. The guy can catch when he needs to, but he's a badass running back. He can get through blocks. He can pierce through and get major yardage after contact. He's really, really good. So definitely, I would if I was building a team, I would definitely go with a guy like a Tony Pollard. But otherwise, besides that, let's get to that final game, and that was the Cowboys losing to the 49ers once again.
Oh boy. And
Tony,
yep.
I apologize in advance. Not for Steven, for myself.
The Dallas Cowboys, for the 12th consecutive season, have missed the NFC Championship game. They have a lot of issues, and the biggest issue is Dak Prescott. You had, again, the experts were so fooled by his play last week against the Buccaneers. Oh, Dak played great against the Buccaneers defense. That was the Bucs defense. This is a whole new ball game. And that San Francisco 49ers defense. D'Amico Ryans, their defensive coordinator, and that defense led by Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Greenlaw. I mean, they're headhunters, and they show no mercy. And the 49ers defense from the get-go was making Dak's life a living hell and making Ezekiel Elliott's life a living hell, and Tony Pollard's as well. And it's not surprising what happened in this game, because Dak Prescott in this game had 2 interceptions, and the first interception led to a field goal by Robbie Gould, aka Mr. Automatic, and unlike
aka good as gold.
Yes, good as gold, Robbie Gould, and unlike Brett Maher, he can actually kick an extra point, but I digress. So the Cowboys, listen, they have talent. CeeDee Lamb could CD ball at times. Sometimes he couldn't, sometimes he could. Gallup is a pretty decent receiver. The running back tandem of Pollard and Elliott, when they are on track, they're dangerous. But Dak Prescott has a lot to prove. And it's a short window now. As great as that offensive line is for Dallas, because that is the one thing that Tony Romo did not have in his years with Dallas, was a great offensive line to turn to. Zach Martin and Smith led the charge for that Cowboys offensive front and protecting Prescott and giving him time. But Prescott at times can be his own worst enemy. And we were saying this, me, R.A., Joey, Kevin, Tony, and Neil were all saying this. Cooper Rush should have been the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. So what if he had one bad game against Philadelphia? Unlike Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott during the second half of the season was throwing interceptions after interceptions. It's like he kept on getting viruses on his computers after time, just throwing pick after throwing pick. Dak Prescott got so Brett Favre-ish to the point where he outdid Brett Favre, because Dak Prescott loves to throw interceptions and loves to throw touchdowns to the opposing team. And in this game, Dak Prescott was not great. I mean, he was missing receivers. He was overthrowing receivers. He was just not making plays when it mattered the most. And the running game couldn't get going. And Mike McCarthy, once again, and Ezra, I know this makes you smile because you're a Chicago Bears fan, and this makes me smile because McCarthy fails in every facet of the game since that Super Bowl win that he had with Green Bay in 2010. Afterwards, McCarthy's coaching career has been hot garbage. He cannot manage clock. He cannot coach, a 2-minute drill. He cannot coach in real game time to save his pathetic life for the most part. He has been piss poor since coming to Dallas because his clock mismanagement has followed Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. And during this game, I mean, what kept them in this game was Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator from the Dallas Cowboys, him and Michael Parsons, they kept this Dallas team in the game. This was actually a really good game. It was a smash mouth, old school defense battle game. The game was moving, unlike unlike the Colts and the Broncos from week number 4. This was actually a good game. A 9-9 game in the playoffs at this juncture with how fast the game was going. This was a good game. These defenses were throwing haymakers and body blows and uppercuts and it was a great game up until that point. And then you knew somebody from the quarterback side was going to make a play. And Prescott wasn't doing it. So Brock Purdy had to be the guy to do it. And Brock Purdy on that third quarter, I think we're going to call this the George Kittle drive, because Jesus almighty, that was an acrobatic catch by Kittle. bouncing off of his face mask, his chest, and to still catch that ball. Unbelievable. 30 yards down the field. Kittle was gone to a few more times, on the drive. Again, it was the George Kittle drive, capped off by the Christian McCaffrey touchdown from 2 yards. And the Niners did not look back. And during the rest of this game, it went the way how we thought it was going to go, because Dak, the pressure was getting to him. The O-line could not contain Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Greenwald, and everybody in San Francisco, because their defensive backs, their front seven was just getting after Dak Prescott, and they just couldn't contain it, and there was a couple of drives by Dallas where, and during this game, for the 6 out of 7 times now officially, now that their season is over, Brett Maher missed 6 to 7 extra points going back into the regular season finale against the Commanders. And he actually made 2 field goals. Oh, good for you. You want a cookie? Because you know what you are, Brett Maher? You are a lonesome kicker, my friend. You suck. And but in all seriousness, this Cowboys team, their defense showed up. They balled. They kept the Cowboys in this game. But their offense, more importantly, Dak Prescott did not show up. 2 interceptions that led to a field goal, and you couldn't even capitalize on a muff punt. You couldn't even do that. When you had all the momentum on your side right there, you couldn't even capitalize on a San Francisco muff punt. And when they had their chances, they failed. And what the hell was that final possession by the Cowboys with Ezekiel Elliott lining up at center? Because the Niners were on the verge of taking his friggin' head off. I mean, that was just as bad as their clock mismanagement last year against the Niners with 13 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. And Dak Prescott, I'm going to remind you right now, so tough shit, Sherlock Holmes, running a quarterback draw up the middle, 13 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. No timeouts for you. Game is over. That right there on Sunday was so bad. I mean, it was terrible. You have Elliott under center. You have the guard to the side. What the hell are you doing? That play is not going to work. And by the way, what also doesn't work is stupidity, Dallas, because Knox should have known that 2 things. 1, if you're going to catch a ball and get hit on the sideline, go north and south and drag the defender out of bounds with you and stop the clock. You waste away precious seconds right there. And if you're going to catch the ball, learn how to bring your second foot in bounds, dude. Like, come on. Give me a break. I mean, you brought the 1 foot in, and that pass could have brought you into a Hail Mary situation. And if your receiver could have learned how to keep his feet in bounds, maybe you wouldn't be in such a stupid predicament to put your running back at freaking center. Get the hell out of here with that crap. I mean, it was bad play calling by Prescott, poor execution by Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, and Prescott, and the running game didn't get going again. I mean, I could be on here for another hour just talking how bad the Cowboys are with Prescott at quarterback, because it is a proven fact that as long as Dak Prescott is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys are not going to go far in the postseason. At least you got them a victory last week against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Congratulations on that. Your 5th playoff victory since Super Bowl 29. Or Super Bowl 30. My bad. Super Bowl 30, 95 season. Good riddance, Dallas.
This was
and that begs the question: where does Dallas go from here with their quarterback in a position? Do you keep Prescott because he has 1 year left on the deal?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a really, 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 really good question. I don't know. Look, Dak has been very inconsistent, yes. Has he been the most perfect player? No.
No.
But I don't know if you're Dallas, I would give up on Dak just yet. I mean, it depends on the length of his contract, what money he's owed, what's the cap space for the year. Can he take that dead money? All those things got to come into play. You can't just be like, oh, Dak's out, Cooper Rush is in. As good as talented as Cooper Rush is, unfortunately, unless he gets traded away or ends up going somewhere else, he's gonna have to wait his turn. It's going to be dependent on, like I said, how long Dak's contract is, and if they can trade him away and either have to go take dead money or is able to pay him the rest of his contract on the way out the door.
Yep,
that's a really good question. Those and it's all valid, but yeah, that game was just not a good game for Dallas. They just couldn't get it going. Defense was kind of there, wasn't there.
And Brock Purdy, there was a couple of times during this game where he did make some mistakes, especially during that first half when he threw the ball out of bounds. He threw the ball with 1 second left on the clock. If he waits a smidge of a second left, they're not even getting the field goal off.
No.
At the end of the half to go up 9-6. So he hasn't made a rookie mistake just yet. He only had, in his 8 games, he only has 3 interceptions, and that's good. That's good, but going forward, I mean, can he keep it up? And they're on a roll right now, 12-game winning streak, and they will face the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game.
Yep, it's going to be really, really good. Real quick before we talk about next week's games, we do have a video to play.
And I am going to play that video right now for you guys.
Oh, you got it, Steven?
I do have it. Yes, I do.
Okay. And, ladies and gentlemen, this comes from our buddy, our Nation Sports Show co-host, Joey Thornton. Joey couldn't, of course, make it tonight along with Kevin due to some personal things going on, but Joey did take the time to send us a video giving us his thoughts on this past week's games and also as well as maybe give his predictions. So with that being said, let's take a look at it. Steven?
Yes. And right now, here is the video for our very own Joey giving his thoughts on the divisional round and giving his predictions for the championship Sunday.
Hey everybody, I hope you guys are having an amazing Tuesday night. I hate that I couldn't be on the show tonight, but I figured I could still give my thoughts on the games from the divisional playoffs this past weekend. I'm going to make this short and sweet because I don't have a lot of time on my hands. But the first game we're going to do is the Chiefs and the Jaguars. Now, I was expecting the Jaguars to give the Chiefs a game because even though the Chiefs have that high-powered offense, their defense can still have some holes in it. And we saw a little bit of those holes this past Saturday. And even though the Chiefs were able to walk out with the W, it may have come at a price because of Patrick Mahomes suffering a high ankle sprain. Now, I don't think he's going to miss time due to that injury because he is one tough son of a gun, but you never know what could happen in the coming days. The next game is the Eagles and the Giants. Now, I wasn't expecting this game to be the blowout that it was. I was expecting the Giants to at least give them a good game, but what can I say, man? Jalen Hurts took the ram by the horns and just powered his way through 3 touchdowns overall, and that defense was able to stifle Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles were able to walk out with an absolute blowout of a win. I'm going to skip the Bengals and the Bills for right now and go to the Niners and the Cowboys. We all know, or at least I know, what to expect from the Cowboys, and I'm sure we all know what to expect from the Cowboys. I mean, this was their 12th straight year that they've gone to the playoffs where they have not made the conference championship game. And I mean, they only have 5 playoff wins since 1996, which was the year that they last won the Super Bowl. I mean, the Cowboys, or Jerry Jones, I don't know what to say about your team, or I don't know what to say about his team. I mean, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are not the answer. They haven't been the answer in a very long time, and I don't know what it's going to take for Jerry Jones to finally wake up and realize that he needs to get a new quarterback and a new running back. Now, it would be nice if Dallas could keep Tony Pollard, who was the number one back in Dallas this past year, but with him hitting free agency and seeing what he was able to do for Dallas this past year, Tony Pollard might pack his bags and go elsewhere. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. In San Francisco, Brock Purdy, man, that dude just continues to surprise me week after week after week. I mean, the dude is phenomenal. George Kittle made some amazing plays, and the defense was able to hold him whenever it counted the most. Now, I do want to say real quick, Dallas's defense, they did a great job. I mean, I can't really count them out. This was all on the Dallas offense. The offense is the reason why Dallas lost this game, and until they can get some help on that offense, they ain't going nowhere. So now the Bengals and the Bills. You know, there's not much I can say about this game because Josh Allen and that entire Buffalo Bills team looked like a bunch of little kids who were dropped off in a big city without a map. They looked so lost on that field. And the fact that Stephon Diggs stormed out of the locker room without even waiting for the coaches to come in, I mean, that just lets you know that Stephon Diggs is a man who does not take losses very well. I mean, what he did was very unclassy and absolutely pathetic. The Bills, they need help because I remember after the Super Bowl ended last year, everybody who was associated with the NFL, whether it was writers, anchors, commentators, whoever, they were all saying that Buffalo was going to fix their mistakes and make their way to the Super Bowl this year. But they just couldn't do it. I mean, Buffalo pretty much put the same team out there as last year, and they were trying to expect a different result, and it's not going to happen that way. It's never going to happen that way. And Joe Burrow, boy, let me tell you, he has guided Cincinnati to the promised land before, and he very well could do it again. Burrow, along with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, and that offensive line and defense, I mean, they were just clicking on all cylinders Sunday against the Buffalo Bills, and Cincinnati's just an incredible team. I mean, you can never count them out anymore, at least for a while, as long as Joe Burrow is under center. So now with that being said, the AFC Championship game is going to feature the Bengals and the Chiefs in a rematch of last year, and the NFC title game is going to feature the Eagles versus the 49ers in an absolute shootout between the top two defenses in the NFC. Like I said, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I know Mahomes has struggled against the Chiefs. I know he struggled against the Bengals the past few times that he's faced Joe Burrow, but I think this will be the time that the Chiefs find a way to get over that hurdle. It's going to be a very close game, but I'm going to say the Chiefs are going to win by a score of 35-31. And as far as the Eagles and the 49ers, this is going to be an absolute barn burner of a game. I mean, Jalen Hurts and that high-powered offense against Nick Bosa and that heavy defense. So with that being said, I'm going to go with San Francisco in this one. It's going to be a very, very close battle. I'm going to say the 49ers are going to pull this one out, though. 27-24 on a last-second field goal. But those are my predictions, and those are my highlights from this past weekend. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of the show, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
And that was Joey's thoughts on this past weekend's games.
All right. That leads us into our own predictions, Steven. So, let's go ahead and let's kick it off, shall we? The first game on the list is because I'm going by the because I always go by what it says on the list here. You just made the list. 49ers and the Eagles. The 2:00 game.
It's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, again, the four teams that are featured in Championship Sunday this year, either one of these teams could go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. I mean, this is one of those Championship Sundays where anything at this point is possible. What we thought was the impossible is possible because the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Niners are four of the best teams in the National Football League this season, and they have the tools to be successful going in the Championship Sunday, and they can make the plays. But it's just a matter of, in this situation, who is going to make the plays when it matters the most, because Philadelphia has that high-powered offense, a pretty well stout defense on the front seven and the back four, and they have a lot of talent, a lot of young talent that have not been in this situation. But I think that Philadelphia has the pieces to be a champion. But I think they're facing a veteran team who has been to the Super Bowl and who has been to multiple championship games. This being their third out of four NFC Conference Championship games in San Francisco. And I think Kyle Shanahan and that Niners team is going to win a close game against Philadelphia. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be San Francisco 24-20 on a game-winning touchdown drive by Brock Purdy. Thank you, Paul Heyman, for that. Genius.
Yeah, this game, this is going to be a tough one to call. I'm going to go with the 49ers. It's going to be close. And you know what? This is going to be so close. I'm going to call it right now. 28-27.
All right, 28-27. Give me a
1
second.
point difference. That's how close it's going to be. It's going to be one of the best games of this entire playoff run. And then the next game, the final game, the AFC Championship game, the Eagles or the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Real quick, and Kevin's score for this game is San Francisco 24-21.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
I'm gonna go what Joey's score was for the first game. I'm gonna go 27-24. What? Who did you pick? The Chiefs? Kevin?
Okay, and for the second game, Kevin has the Bengals winning 31-27. And
I'm gonna go 27-24. I'm gonna go to score of that first same thing like the score was for Joey's first game. That's gonna be the score for the Bengals Chiefs game. 27-24 Bengals.
And you got San Francisco on the first one?
San Francisco on the first one, 28-27.
I mean, in this game right here, it's a very tough game to call because, okay, if Mahomes was completely healthy, I may go with the Chiefs based off it's the home team and he's healthy and he's had a great season this year, over 5,000 yards passing, over 40 touchdowns. He's going to be the MVP at the end of the season. But this is my thing. You have Joe Burrow, and this Bengals team. Who has the Chiefs number? They know the ins and the outs of this team. They know how they work. And I honestly don't think even if Mahomes gets the preparation that he does from this training staff and this coaching staff to work on that ankle to get it going for this game, an ankle sprain is an ankle sprain. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does planting that right leg to get those throws off, because during that Jacksonville game, he was struggling to get those throws off. At times with that foot injury, or that ankle injury. And I think the Bengals are going to smell blood. I think that they have what it takes to get back to the Super Bowl. And that's why I am going to go with Kevin. And I am picking the Bengals to beat the Chiefs in a close one. Would I be surprised if the Chiefs win? No, absolutely not. Because, it's Patrick Mahomes we're talking about. And he's great. And the fact that this team is where they are at, considering that they lost Tyreek Hill in the offseason last year, they lost Sammy Watkins, the year prior, and you just have Travis Kelce there. But just Travis Kelce and Mahomes alone can lift you to a Super Bowl championship game. And I honestly think that Mahomes is going to struggle again. I think that the Bengals are going to have their way with him because he's not going to be fully healthy, I don't think. And I think the Bengals they're hot. They're hungry. They're determined that they want to get back to the Super Bowl. And I think they can, and I think they will. And that's why I'm going to go with the Bengals in a close one. I'm going to go 30-27 on a game-winning touchdown drive.
Very nice. Very nice. Let me see here. That's about it on the NBA stuff. So, NFL stuff, excuse me.
Yep.
We're good there. Let's go to some NBA stuff going on. As far as news, and of course, check where we're at. As far as the
Giannis made his return last night from Milwaukee last night.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Yeah, see, I'm a little behind on that. But definitely, we'll see that. And there's also been some news that the NBA All-Star Draft will take place live before the game.
Wow. Interesting.
Team captains will make their picks in a live televised pregame segment shortly before the game begins in Salt Lake City.
That's a nice little wrinkle to the All-Star game. Interesting.
Yeah, because they're now getting All-Star Weekend stuff. So, of course, we'll keep you guys updated as stuff progresses, including, of course, what I love is the Celebrity All-Star game, which I love seeing. You've had some entertainment moments in the past. Kevin Hart. You've had, everybody of country music artists, rock artists, whoever is a part of it. So it's been fun. Injury reports real quick. Zion Williamson will be out for at least 2 more weeks due to that hamstring injury. Kevin Durant will be reevaluated in 2 weeks from his MCL sprain. Let's see. Not only did Giannis return, but also Chris Middleton returned too.
That's right. He did return last night, and the boy Milwaukee sure, could have used that lift last night, and they got it.
Absolutely. Games going on right now. Chicago is leading the Pacers right now, 66-57. Boston and Miami are tied in the second, near the end of the second quarter, 47. Knicks are leading Cleveland right now, 46-36 in the second. Pelicans are leading the Nuggets by 2 in the first quarter. And then later on tonight, we've got Dallas and Washington, Phoenix and Charlotte, Clippers and Lakers. And those are your games for tonight.
It's really surprising in the NBA how the Sacramento Kings are where they are at right now. After being the laughing stock of the NBA for years, behind the Lakers and the Clippers and the California part of basketball, and where they're at right now. And, just having the success that they've had. This is the best start that they have had as a franchise in 18 years. And big up to the Kings, a young team. They're on the rise, and they can only get better from here.
Yes, definitely.
And also last night, the Celtics lost to the Magic. I believe it was 113-97. And also a very interesting stat is the Celtics have struggled against the Magic this year, and every other team, they're 13-3. against every other team in the NBA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Celtics are still where they are at. They're having a great run. The Warriors are on the rise, and they're continuing to climb up the ladder. And, the NBA is starting to heat up a little bit.
Yes, it is. Real quick, from what I'm looking at right here, also from what I'm looking at here at the standings, which I'm looking at right now. Right now, we got, of course, Boston still 4 games ahead of the 76ers. And then behind them, the Bucks are only a game and a half behind the 76, or only a half a game behind the 76ers. And then a half game behind them is the Nets. Then a game behind them is the Cavs. So that top 5 is a tight-knit race. And then you got the Heat back behind them, 9 games out of first, but only 3 games behind the number 5 spot, Cavaliers.
Yep.
And then in that bottom 4 to 7 through 10, you got the Knicks, Hawks, Pacers, and Bulls.
And those play-in spots will come in interesting too once the season gets down to the last couple of games.
Yep. Absolutely. That's for the East. And in the West, of course, the Nuggets lead the West right now, but the Grizzlies are on their heels with only 2 games back. And then 3.5 games behind them is Sacramento Kings. Then
unbelievable.
A game and a half behind them is the Pelicans. Mavs only a game and a half behind the Pelicans, and then the Clippers are only half a game behind them.
Unbelievable that the Kings are in the top 3 of the Western Conference for the first time in years.
Yep, and then the 7 through 10 is the Suns, Jazz, Timberwolves, and Golden State.
Man, that's going to get very interesting again down the stretch because Golden State is starting to catch fire, and they're starting to get that championship pedigree going, and they're starting to turn it on, and if they can get into the dance, watch out.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the Pacers are on a 7-game losing streak, so.
Interesting. 7-game losing streak.
Yeah. 11-36 for the Rockets and 12-37 for the Pacers.
Interesting.
It's very interesting because both teams suck ass, but I digress.
I think your dog agrees too.
No, my dog is barking because he thought he saw Dak Prescott actually do something good. No. It was Aaron Rodgers actually taking a COVID vaccination.
Oh, you done messed up, Aaron.
If I had that soundbite right now, I'd play it, but
Yes.
Yes, I would. Thank you for doing it.
Yes.
So that's pretty much it. I'm checking right now quickly MMA news, and then we'll wrap up the show a little early today since it's just us two. Let's see. McGregor is accused of attacking a woman on a yacht in Ibiza.
Wow.
Man can't stay out of controversy, can he?
No, he cannot. He loves trouble, and trouble loves him. I mean, McGregor just keeps on digging and digging and digging fires.
Oh yeah, we do got to say one thing. Very farewell to Glover Teixeira, who retired after winning the light heavyweight or after losing the main event to the light Jamal Hill, who was the winner and I believe won the UFC light heavyweight championship. I believe it is. But he beat Glover Teixeira by unanimous decision. And Glover Teixeira announced his retirement.
Interesting.
33-9 in sport, been around for a good long while. But yep, he announced his retirement. And we got to do congratulations to Brandon Moreno, who won the UFC flyweight championship by TKO in the third round because the referee stopped the fight due to an injury. So
all right.
So we got that coming up. Or we got that happened this past weekend in the world of MMA. But outside of that, I think that's about it. Steven, do you have anything before we go?
I think that pretty much, does it for me. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens this weekend in Championship Sunday, because I really think that in these two games, in order for Philadelphia to get to win this game, they're going to have to really, really attack Nick Bosa and that Niners defense. And they had the talent. Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders and AJ Brown is a dynamic weapon on the offensive end of the field. And of course you have Smith, the other rookie receiver, and that they're a dual threat at receiver. Can they get it going? Well, I have to wait and see, because the Niners defense, as we all know, is very physical. And I think that they're going to have a tough task at hand. Can they pass it? We shall see. They could, but also as well. And to me, this is why I call the Niners and Eagles the sexy matchup, because the reason why I call it the sexy matchup is because it's a matchup that did not happen all season long. And if it would have been Cowboys Eagles, it would have been fine, I guess, but it's a matchup that we've already seen. But with this matchup being Philadelphia and San Francisco, it's a matchup that we haven't seen all season long. So it's going to be really curious to see how both of these coaches and these coordinators, come up with these game plans this week for their respective clubs. And same thing goes for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has to continue to play as close as a perfect game as possible, because he hasn't thrown a single interception so far in the postseason. And I think he's due for one. But the thing is, he's going to have to go through something, possibly to get, to have success, as far as got to go through some adversity, you have to, but sometimes you don't, sometimes, the ball, falls your way, and Purdy has had a very good season so far for San Francisco. And I think no matter if they win the Super Bowl or if they don't, I think Brock Purdy is going to be the starting quarterback come next season. And even if Garoppolo was healthy, I still would start Purdy over Garoppolo, because unlike Garoppolo, Purdy is careful with the ball and he doesn't get happy feet and he doesn't throw interceptions like Garoppolo would. And I think that it's going to be a competitive game. I think that Philadelphia's offensive line just has to pull a Bengals move and be very physical and attack the Niners defense, because as we all know, this Niners defense, they eat. They come after the quarterbacks. They come after the offensive line. They attack the running backs and the receivers, and they're very physical. And they're going to have to be very physical with San Francisco to beat them off the line of scrimmage. And, it's going to be a very physical, close game. And as we all know, defense travels on the road. And that's why we're pretty much all of us are picking San Francisco to win, because their defense is that good, ranked number 1 overall. And as we all know, again, defense travels. And the other thing for me is the Bengals and the Chiefs. It's pretty simple at this point. Numbers don't lie. Mahomes is 0-3 against Joe Burrow in Cincinnati since November of 21. He lost to them in November or December, one or the other. And then he also lost to the Bengals at home in the AFC Championship game last year. 24-20, or I think it was 27-24, or it was either 27-24 or 24-20. Yeah, it was 27-24, and it was a close game. And the Bengals made all the right plays when it mattered the most. They picked off Mahomes in that game. And fast forward this season, the Chiefs lost to the Bengals again at home, or on the road this time in Cincinnati, and Burrow outgunned Mahomes in that game. And I honestly, truly think that the Bengals feel that they have their number. They have Mahomes' number, especially Mahomes with that injured sprained right ankle, because Mahomes, when he's healthy, he can make some plays. He can make some magic happen. But when he's on that one wheel, watch out, because that defense is going to be, they're going to be very, very physical with this KC offense. And honestly, I think the Bengals defense is a little better than the Chiefs is, because the Chiefs defense is very suspect at best. Because if the Chiefs advance, they're going to have a tough task against Philadelphia or San Francisco in the Super Bowl. But the Bengals, to me, have the more healthy team, the more complete team when it comes to receivers, running backs. they're pretty even across the board on receivers and running backs, but the defensive side, I mean, the defense for the Bengals is pretty solid. Is it great? No, but it's better than the Chiefs is. Would I be surprised if the Chiefs win? No, because it's Mahomes. Mahomes has had a hell of a season, MVP season, and it would not surprise me if he leads the Chiefs to their third Super Bowl in 4 years. But we shall see what happens this weekend, and this might be one of the more competitive championship Sundays that we have had in such a long time. Because it could go to either team. It could be Philadelphia, it could be San Francisco, the Bengals, or the Chiefs. Either one of these Final Four teams could represent their respective conferences in the Super Bowl in Arizona, and I think that this is the perfect Final Four.
I agree 100%, man. It's gonna be a very hard fought couple of games. We got a great weekend to look forward to when it comes to that. And of course, Super Bowl Sunday coming up very soon as well. And we'll cover that as it goes on. Of course, next week we'll be back. Hopefully the entire crew will be back next week. Steven, you got any final thoughts before we close it out?
I just want to say a great show with you, bro, talking about the NFL, talking about these divisional round games and previewing the conference championship games and what these teams need to do, just it's going to be, again, a very interesting Sunday, this coming weekend, because it's competitive. These two games should be very highly competitive, and we will be back next week to talk about these two games and, looking ahead, to Super Bowl 57.
I agree, man. It's a great show. Glad to do it with you as always. Thank you to Joey for sitting in that video, Kevin for sitting in the predictions. Thank you guys so much for still contributing. We appreciate it as much. Definitely want to say to our guys, hopefully everything's good. Also, before we go, I also got to mention, of course, don't forget to tune into the Nation's Corner, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, Saturday.
And oh yeah, the Rumble, baby, is this Saturday.
As well, yes, it is. The Royal Rumble is this Saturday, so more than likely we'll see an early version of the Nation's Corner. That time may change. Keep an eye on social media for more info. But it's going to be an awesome time. We got the Rumble this Saturday, and of course they're going to review the entire full week of wrestling, from everything from especially what happened last night at Raw 30. They're going to get into that, and of course all the week of pro wrestling. We got a loaded Dynamite coming up. We've got, of course, Friday Night SmackDown before the Rumble to close out the week before the.
Oh yeah, real quick too. Sorry. Last night, The Undertaker coming out to American Badass. That was friggin' sweet. That was awesome.
As
Awesome.
Probably the biggest Taker fan anybody in our crew has known. That made me fucking smile so big. I swear my smile went from corner to corner in that damn room. To see
Unbelievable.
him ride that bike again after 20 years. And he looked good. And it was a great segment. Great segments overall throughout the night. I don't want to get too much into it because I want to leave that to our crew to cover.
Yes, absolutely. But that was a lot of fun last night. They used all the legends in the right ways. They didn't overdo it. They used it to get young talent over. And overall last night, it was a great Raw 30.
Yeah, it was a great Raw 30. One of the best legends-filled shows they've done in years. So got to give them all the credit in the world. But that's pretty much it for my end. Thank you to everybody for joining us as always. Don't forget to hit our socials. Don't forget to hit our individual socials, which will also be in this video outro and in the description as well. Follow Too Sweet Cosplay. Follow Nation's Corner and Nation Sports Show, all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, share on this video and our YouTube channel as well. So with that being said, for Kevin Rory, for Joseph Thornton, for Stevie Wyand, and of course for our boy in spirit, Randy Gyron, I am Ezra Vickery, and we will see you right here next week for another great edition of our Nation Sports Show. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all next week. Enjoy the conference playoffs. Peace.